Hi friends, I'm Tanveey Kapur, a psychic numerologist and a tarot card reader. And today we have with us Mark Nelson, who is the positively psychic medium. Mark has the ability to deliver clear messages from family, friends, and guides on the other side. Mark has investigated tragedies relating to Marilyn Monroe and Sharon Tate. Mark, welcome, and thank you so much for joining hands and doing this together. And would you like to share your journey with all the audience and how you got into this before we proceed?
Sure. Tanvi, it's a pleasure. It's lovely meeting you. I feel very fortunate to have a chance to meet you. And I great respect. Thank you for reaching out. I started my work, I actually became aware of my ability when I was very young. At age 11, my father was murdered when he was working in New York City. And then after he died, after his funeral, I saw him when I was out in front of my house where we lived in New Jersey. And so I saw him and I thought I was losing my mind. And so, then I saw him again at my school and I just said, Dad, I don't know why you're here. I didn't understand it. I wasn't in a place to appreciate and understand it. But since then, I've grown up. I wished, and then I was taking a walk one night and saying, I wish my dad could meet my daughter, my wife, see her new house, see how life turned out. And I kept hearing, I did, I have. And so since then, he's guided me in many ways. And so because of what I've been through, I feel like I'm in a unique position to help investigate and look at other murders and look at other personal tragedies because I know what it's like to have it affect your family.
Thank you for sharing this with us, Mark. Um, so, Mark, like you know, Sushant Singh Rajput is a celebrated Bollywood actor, very talented, and he's had a very tragic demise. So I would like to ask you and request you today if you are able to connect with him and share any messages
Yes. Um, what I actually
forward.
before yes before you
Great, Mark. Please
called,
share more.
we're having a little delay, but before you called, I sat and meditated, and I felt like that he was coming through very clearly. I feel like my father was being helpful in getting me to be in touch with him, and so what I'm hearing right away is that this was not a suicide. I'm hearing that this was, um, according to, as I understand it, almost a hit, a murder. This was not accidental. This was done, and I have to feel my sense is that there were police involved in this at like kind of low level police. It feels like that I'm seeing him point at a pretty dark haired girl. I think that this he's saying my girlfriend, my girlfriend. My sense is that his girlfriend had something to do with this. And I see all of this, like I see him and he's pointing around and there's like a swirl of money. There's money going this way, there's money going that way. I see money flowing in different directions. I see money as a motivator. I see money being hidden. I feel like that it's like this woman feels like there's a great sense of entitlement connected to this woman that was his girlfriend. I keep hearing that she thought she was entitled. She was pretty. She doesn't, when you see her, she looks pretty and sweet, but she's got another side to her that is quite scary and deliberate. And I feel like that she felt, I mean, in part, I hear that there was jealousy of him. I feel like that what she sensed with him is that perhaps he didn't deserve this, that she deserved it, that she deserved as much as him, that she wanted things from him. I feel like that she was able to get help with protecting herself. I feel like that the reason why there's a couple of things that happened related, he says to, this is Sushant, to his passing. He feels like, he said that I was fooled, I was trusting, I was fooled, that I believed the police. He says that he was approached by police. He feels like that someone identified as a policeman. He says, I identified as a policeman. I keep getting this saying, I don't know if it's someone's name, but Ed knows. E-D knows. Ed knows. I don't know if there's an Edward. Ed is a common name, but I'm hearing Ed knows. Edison, Ed knows. So whoever Ed is, Ed knows. The other thing too is that I feel like that he was first kind of, they're showing me that he wasn't able to fight back at his full strength. When he was attacked, he's saying, look for odd abrasions. I don't know if you even can any at this point, but I'm seeing like odd scrapes on his body unrelated to what appeared to be like a strangulation. My neck hurt right here. So it feels like someone either put pressure on my neck, but he says I wasn't able to fight back like he could have. He says, I was strong, but I wasn't able to fight back. I wasn't able to, they did something, they suppressed his ability to fight. I almost feel like, I must get like if he wasn't tasered, there was something that disabled him. And then it's very cruel, but they almost like decided that they're going to humanely kill him. This was all, this feels very deliberate. This feels very planned. This was, he's saying yes. He says that they subdued me and then they killed me. This was an execution. This was not what it was supposed to be. I mean, it wasn't how it was presented. So they staged, everything was staged. My neck hurts, but I wasn't able to fight. I wasn't able to fight back. I feel like as he shows himself as his arms not being able to function. He was not able to do this. And he says, people that really know me know I wouldn't have done this. Because people have made up things about what I've said, how depressed I was. I wasn't that depressed. He says, I was planning. I was being quiet. I was thinking about my next move. He said, I feel like that when I see, he's showing me that he almost hit his head against the wall, banging to get into his next project. He kept running into a wall. He kept running into a wall. This girl thought the timing was right to take what she wanted from him. She saw that there was a limit to how long he might be able to function as a big celebrity. She thought he might be falling, like slipping. That was a mistake. He says, I had so many other things happening. And he says, I don't know that anyone knows this, but I'm feeling like he was either planning to write a book. There was more he wanted to write and express about himself. And that in the middle of all of this, this girlfriend got into his, like, not only his head, but his wallet. She took a little, then she took a little more, then she took a little more, and then it got complicated, and then she realized to protect herself, she didn't want to go to jail. She did this in part. What it looks like to me, so I'm hearing this, is that she didn't plan this from the beginning. She planned to only take a little money, and then she didn't want to go to jail. And he's the one that could have put her in a very difficult place. She felt like she had no choice. This is very damning, but this is how it looks. She felt like she had no choice. She wouldn't dream of going to jail. Someone like her doesn't go to jail, doesn't go to prison. isn't in prison for this. So she's saying that, or Ed, I keep hearing Ed. Ed knows. Ed has the story. Talk to Ed, but my sense is that they looked like undercover police to me. They looked like policemen that were not like showing up in uniform. They flashed a badge. They got in. They disabled him. He says, they took my life. They took my life. And then because they were close to everything, he says there's pictures of them. It's like they didn't go too far from what happened. He said they stayed close enough to kind of orchestrate, direct, push. They did this. He said that look in the pictures, you'll see there's a guy, it's like he's in his mid-30s. I'd say he looks very muscular, but I mean like a little heavy, but very strong. He says he's a policeman. His name I'm hearing that the guy that may have done this, there's two of them. One identified himself as a policeman. The other guys wanted to make Sushant think he was a policeman, but he saw only one badge. He believed the badge, and then the badge turned on him. The policeman turned on him. This is what happened. The other thing he's saying, if you really wonder what happened to me, look where did all the money go? He keeps saying, where did my money go? Look where my money went. Look where my money went. He says that there's like odd abrasions on him, and he's even pointing like there may have been, he says, look under my arm. There's like a weird injury under his armpit. I'm going like under armpit that they used. They did something that was either like an injection, or there was something that he says, look under my arm. It doesn't make sense. If you look under my arm, there's either an abrasion, a mark that doesn't belong there. There is no reason why that would be there. You'd have to know to look at it. They need to look at other parts of my body. They need to see that. He says, he said they orchestrated everything. They've been in my house before too. They've been in my house. That's the other thing I get, is that they knew what they were doing. They knew where they were going. This policeman and a crooked policeman. And I feel like that, I mean, it feels more like I want to say this, a smaller conspiracy as opposed to a bigger one. Feels like it was more low-level people connected to him. I feel like there are other issues, but I feel like that the things that created problems for him were part of a bigger system. But the people that were responsible for killing him were like, he ran into, there's an American saying, I don't know if it makes sense. He was trying to buck the system. He was trying to do it his way. And he was running into like doors being closed in his face. So I think that this spurred the girlfriend. The girlfriend was mostly concerned about herself not going to jail and being incriminated by him. So what I'm hearing is that he says he understands it was either going to be her or me. One of us was going down, and I just didn't believe that this could happen to me. I didn't plan this to happen. I didn't want this to happen. Please make sure that, whoever is involved with like managing this money needs to be looked at very closely. This needs to be looked at closely too. There's either negligence on the part of his accountants or compliance with an attempt to steal from him. Anyone who was helping to manage his money knew what they were looking at. They saw something wrong, and either two things happened. They were negligent and didn't notice that the money was going, or they were part of the conspiracy. There was fault to be laid at the feet of the people managing his money. Both of them knew, I mean, either way, they had someone, an honest person managing the money, seen this, they would have called it to his attention, if or sooner. They were asleep. They were not attentive. They did not do the right thing. This set him up to be victimized. When he realized he was being victimized and he realized who was doing this, it became very complicated. So there, I mean, I'm looking at this as I go. It feels like girlfriend, money manager, police. These seem to be the people involved in this conspiracy. And then above him, there's a studio system that does not allow people like him to come in. Oh, I feel like he was getting pushed out because he was trying to exercise more control over what he was going to do next. He wasn't going to be told what to, there was a very independent streak within him. And it ran counter to the system that wanted to use him the way they wanted to use him. He did not go along with that. That was part of his personal struggle. Then the girlfriend, I'm sorry, it just feels like that there's a woman that was close to him that had access to his money, that started to take a little more. It didn't start out like she wanted to steal from him left and right, but she just started to take, became easy to take a little more. And then she was in deep. She couldn't get away from the fact that she had taken so much and that he was aware of it. She was hoping that it would never come up, that she could manage him and just slip out of his life without having this being noticed. But it was finally noticed. I'm not sure if it was him or the account that finally woke up to this, but he finally recognized, where's my money going? Oh my gosh, it's you. So it's all kind of, it really makes me sad when I look at this. And I feel like that there is some police cover up, definitely police cover up. They're lying. The people closest to this are hiding things. They're the ones that need to be investigated. The money trail is going to point very clearly to the girl that she has trouble coming. It feels like it's a very sad thing. This girl was greedy. She felt like she was entitled, this sense of entitlement. I keep getting this girl that's like, well, I should have, I could have. And she was very, I mean, she strikes me as being pretty, being very sweet and innocent looking. And she's not. She's not really the person that she wants you to think she is. If she's not an actress, she's trying to be an actress. It's a very sad thing. The other fallout from this is that other people are going to look at not only his sad passing, but there's this bigger operation in place where there's no independence. It's like, he says, I didn't want to be part of the factory the way they wanted me to be part of the factory. They being like the people who run the studios in the Bollywood studios. He says, I could have kept being a star, but I didn't want to be a star their way. I wanted to do it my way. That's how he's telling me this. He says I feel like he's talking to me because you'll talk for him. You'll get the word to people that care about his family, him. That Tanveey, you can get this to people. And the fact that, I mean, I have too close a brush with murder in my own life, and I know what it's like, what it does to families. It can hurt and ravage families. And so the other thing too is that people need to learn that he's saying that this girl didn't start out wanting to murder him. You know, she cared for him, but she changed. And what little crimes she did became bigger crimes.
Mark, you were saying that you were talking about a certain mark under his underarm, and that something was probably injected. Like, is he like? Are you getting more information about that?
It feels like that they wanted to. He was drugged in order to make it. I mean, if someone's committing suicide, you're not going to look for an injection under the arm. It's going to be an easy place to hide something, in hair or an odd crease underneath the arm. And it feels like that it was disabling him. It feels like it maybe a slight overdose. It was all about disabling him. It was all about, I mean, he was not a weak person. He was fooled by someone that looked like they were official, like police. And then they injected him. And then I feel like there was like a strangulation, and then to cover up the strangulation, they hung him. That's how this looks to me. It's like I got like pressure on the side of my neck. That hurts. I mean, I'm pressing on it here. And it feels like that they cut the circulation to his brain. He was either, if he wasn't quite dead by the time they hung him, he was dying, and then they hung him. And I'm sorry to be so graphic, but this is how this feels to me. I mean, I do a lot of things with sense of touch, feel, but this one, I mean, I mean, I looked at my own dad's murder, and it was very brutal. This was brutal not because it was emotional. It was brutal because it was calculated. His passing was very calculated. It was very. The people had a good idea of what they're doing. They wanted to cover this up. They wanted quiet. They wanted this girl wanted to keep the money she had taken. She was going to pay them. These guys were convinced by this woman that there would be very little exposure for them because no one would look at the police, and they would pay her. I mean, he would pay them, and I keep hearing that this policeman, when they go to look, I feel like he's either broke into the house or he's been in the house before. So he says, look at people who have come to my house before. On the police side, they knew how to make this look like a murder or a suicide. They knew how to manipulate me. They knew of me. They had inside information because of this woman that was part of my life. Says I had stopped talking to her, but she knew in the time that I had stopped talking to her that she was in trouble. This is what precipitated her action. She knew that she was in trouble, and it was a matter of time before he turned on her. So she had to stop him before he turned on her. And her whole mental defense calculation is that I didn't mean for this to happen, and he was going to hurt me much more. It's like she has all of these justifications. He could have made more money. He would have been fine, but no, he had to go after poor little me, and that's completely unfair. And then she decided, I'm not going to let him do this. And she knew policemen. She knew there's really a guy that's like, I feel like that there's like one policeman connected to this case, in particular, who has been under suspicion before. And that it's like he's a fixer. That's what he looks like. And that's the other thing too. So I feel like that this guy has fixed other crimes, made other things seem like a cover up. So look for someone who's who under the color of the law can do things, but he's also a fixer who steps outside of that, uses his professional position to take advantage of people, to hurt people. And he's done pretty well with this up to now. I would also be very careful if I were this girl, because she becomes someone who can expose other people who don't want to be exposed. She thinks she's above the law. She thinks she's safe. I don't think she's safe. Look for something to happen to this girlfriend. I hope to God, for her sake, she recognizes that she's dealing with someone, more than one person, who would turn on her because they don't want to go to jail. This wasn't just her. And they know they know now she's the weak link. And it's very likely that she could be in danger as well. She unleashed the wrong people. And now they don't trust her because things are leading to her that are going to make everybody else look bad. This is ongoing. This is not done. Another person, at least one other person, is going to die as a result of this.
Sorry, Mark, what was that?
At least one more person is going to die connected to this case. Because the cover-up needs to continue. I feel like that there's going to be one or two other. There are people hot on this, and I think one other person is going to be killed in connection to this case, because they are the weak link. They are the weak link. It's very tragic. Very tragic. That's kind of what he's showing. He says his mother was. Sushant says his mother was there to help him when he passed. His father is still here fighting for him. He knows that, but he says his mother was there to help him. His mother seemed to die at a fairly early age. Another thing I get. I don't know what you know about her. I don't know. My sense is that mom was waiting for him.
Right. So Mark, you were saying that there can be another death related to this. There has been another death which has already happened, and somewhere people are trying to draw a connection between what is already transpired and now the tragic demise of Sushant. So could it perhaps be that, or there could be another?
I think there could be another murder, because there are several people that I feel like that there's a reporter or two, at least, or a couple of people who are hot on the trail of what's happened. I feel like that people are getting the information they need. I'm seeing bank accounts being looked at very closely. And this is where there's another murder. I think there's going to be one more, and it's really scary. Anyone connected to this, they have to understand that I mean, if there is a person connected to this and they want to save their own lives, they should step forward and get into police custody to be protected, to the right police, not any police, because there's some kind of rogue policeman out there that would continue to protect themselves. I feel like there's at least one rogue policeman who is not going to be the trigger man. The killer isn't going to let himself be taken over this. Because the other thing too is this guy, this policeman, pays off other people as well. So he was getting serious money. And anybody that is, I think there's going to be one more killing connected to this, because this murder was not done in a vacuum. It's like a number of people had to collaborate, cooperate, at minimum look the other way. That's how this comes across. It's pretty tough. I think at least one more person passed. Very sorry. I can see the other thing too that Sushant is telling me is like, if this can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. This can happen to me. This can happen to anybody. Because this wasn't supposed to happen to someone like me. He says, I thought I had people protecting me and my money and my his family didn't do anything wrong here. That they don't seem like there's a problem connected to them. He's saying there's not. It's people that should have been looking out for him, were paid to look out for him, that didn't. That's how that comes across.
Mark, I seem to have lost you.
Okay, I'm here. I can see you.
Yeah, okay. The video froze in the middle. Can you just tell me the last bit? I didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Repeat that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll start from what Sushant says is that if this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. That I was supposed to have people who were watching out for me, and they didn't. He says there is a level of corruption that has to be addressed, because if I can be killed, anybody can be. I was supposed to be safe. I was public. He says people knew me. And they can, if anyone can reach up and take someone fairly well known, God help everybody else. There are people that the idea that this isn't low level corruption, but it's maybe broad corruption. This guy, he says, this is not the only fixer out there. Says that the majority of cops are good, the vast majority, but there's still people like this one man. His name I keep hearing a name that begins with an M. M as in Mark, not me, but I mean M. M-A, M-A name.
Okay. What about this name? What about the person who has this name?
He feels like a policeman. He feels like this guy is, I would say he's in his mid-30s.
Okay.
Strongly built. Has been under suspicion for corruption before. Managed to get out of it. M-A, M something. M-A, maybe an M-A-R sound, Mar, M-A, M-A. Look to see if there's any policemen. M-A, first name, I think it is. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. And they might even have like a short nickname like Mac or something, M-A-K, M-A-C-K, Mac, Mick, Mac, something that sounds like that. The spelling may not be perfect, but it's a short Mac, Mick, Mac, Mark. I'm hearing something like that. And this guy, local policeman under suspicion, has been cleared before, not this time.
And when you were talking about it, there is a lot of corruption is what you were getting, that led to this, and a lot of collaboration of people. Like any information about, who they could be, or, of course you said like it was, the local police, somebody corrupt in the police who collaborated with perhaps his girlfriend and a couple of other people. Any idea, any messages about who these people could be?
He says that they're not the high level people, it's more low level people. People step down that were like, they feel like they're either not paid enough, they felt like that it's not fair. The corruption above these guys only goes as far as like Their bosses don't want to look because they do a pretty good job with other things. Sounds like out of a crime movie, but um, there's a two faces to these. There's like a handful of policemen that they feel like he didn't deserve to live like this. They live like kings. There's jealousy connected. There was jealousy connected to this. Sushant, he says, yes, they were jealous. They'd been to my house before. They had seen how I live. They were jealous of what I had. So it feels more like low-level policemen that I'm not going to say it's a bad thing, but there's certainly a group of them that look out for each other. It's almost like they're a little crime family within the police department, if that makes sense. A little crime group within, and they kind of they do protect each other. They do get information. They know how to work the system. They know how to hide things. They're the people that have their hands on things. I can take this piece of advice. I can direct someone to do this. They're very much at a level where they can get people on, like other people, coroners, doctors are used to dealing with them, so they don't question them too much. When the police say do this and this, they're a little bit afraid of these policemen that are kind of. This is not to say all the local police at all. Many of them are just doing their jobs and they're honest, but there is definitely what I would call a subset, a small group that manages and gets things done. Also, too, they are known as fixers for very wealthy people outside the police department. These guys, this little subset that I'm discussing, does have connections to higher level people, but this feels more related to this girl, to her not wanting to go to jail, to the accountant or somebody that's related to managing the money who should have seen this, didn't want to be found guilty of negligence.
So there are no high-level people in.
It doesn't. I'm not seeing them right now. I really do think that it was more about. To me, this is more of a crime of greed. It feels more like a crime of greed. Like this, these people wanted. There was jealousy and greed connected, and so the high-level people. I mean, their guilt lies in blocking him from doing things. Their guilt lies in. I mean, I think that what you'll find is interesting, that these policemen, this subset, this little criminal group, does the work. Here's the only connection I see, is that a high-level wealthy man wants to get something fixed. They want to correct something. They want to take someone away who's a problem. They turn to these policemen who fix things.
And what you describe this wealthy person like a little bit, or the wealthy subset, or the wealthy person? I don't know whether it's singular or plural, but whatever you get, like any information you can like share about that as well, like if it's a particular person or is it multiple people, what describe them? Or
I feel like that the police subset is probably 3 or 4 people that look out for each other. What makes it interesting or hard to prosecute is that they kind of don't share too much knowledge with each other. They're aware that the other one I need a favor. So it's almost like I'm gonna ask you to do something strange, but you're not gonna ask about why. You're only gonna do what I tell you to do. And then in turn, if I need a favor fixed, you'll fix it for me. So they're almost like little cells where one guy doesn't know, they all don't share a lot of information. It's almost like if I told you, and Tanveey, would you throw out this gun? throw it, burn it, or buy drugs from someone and then hide that purchase. That's all you would need to know. You don't know what I would be doing with the drugs. You don't know what would happen with them. So they ask each other to do kind of peculiar. So even if they're found guilty, it's of a fairly simple thing because they don't want to know what the other guy is doing. So it's a very small little group. But above that, oh, the other thing too I hear is it feels like that it's like the really wealthy men don't have anything. They hire personal assistants that are kind of that is where the wall of knowledge ends. It's like a studio chief will turn to his assistant and say, take care of this for me. I don't, and then with the implicit message that I don't want to know how it's taken care of. Just take care of it. So in Sushant's case, don't have him star in the next movie. How you make that happen is up to you. So I feel like that there's a level. The idea is that the very top people, they can plausibly deny knowing certain things. They can honestly say, I don't know, I just thought it would be taken care of honestly, but they knew. Did I lose you? Are you there? So
Right.
that
So Mark,
this is how
any
they
other
all.
message?
This is how the wealthy protect themselves, especially if you really want to put the right people in jail. Talk to the personal assistants to some of these very wealthy people. They don't have normal titles. There's just a fixer at the top talks to a fixer at the bottom. A personal assistant to a very wealthy man in the film industry. I keep hearing that, I don't know if this matters much. I'm hearing a local film company, a large film group. It's like begins with the letter A, ABI, AB, something like that. A. The letter A is kind of prominent in their organization. A. An A name. It feels like that the studio has like 3 initials, and it may be like ABI or something. I don't know what that means, but the guy at the top, the figurehead, the person who talks to the news, really doesn't know because he made the point that I don't want to know, but he gets it done. And they compartmentalize how they do things. They're just happy things work out. Sorry for him, good for her. But in this case in particular, it feels very much more like this is about greed and not wanting to go to jail, and convincing some fairly low-level police who are not above murdering someone for the right price of doing just that and then covering it up. But because there are brutal people involved, there's going to be at least one more death connected to this, because someone is saying, I'm not going to jail because of him or her. I'm not going to be convicted for this. That person is the weak link. This is all a very dangerous game that is not done being played. Did you catch that?
Right,
What I
Mark.
said.
Right. So
this is a dangerous game that is not done being played. Okay.
So do you have, would Sushant like to share anything before we, wind this up? Is there any message? Is anything you'd like to share?
He said, I wouldn't have done this. He says, I hate being portrayed as such a weak person that I would have taken my own life. He said, I worked hard. I tried to do the right things. I don't want people to remember me as someone who would be, he keeps saying, it's like, I know there are people who are mentally ill that take their lives. He says, I understand that. but I was not one of them. I don't want to be remembered for someone as someone that he said I had so much. I don't want, and that I don't want people to think I was so weak. He says, I know there are other people that weren't weak, they were just sick. He feels very compassionate towards other people who have committed suicide. But he says, but I was not one of them. And he says, and it just like these people who do this, they ruin lives regularly like mine. And he keeps coming back to this message. If this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone. He says, and this is wrong. He's just like, this is so wrong. He says, this can happen to anybody. And he says, be careful about who you share your money with. Be careful who gets into your life. Saying, please believe me. It's like, I had other things I wanted to do. I wanted to write a book about my experiences. I wanted to, he says, please tell my father I'm okay. He keeps going, please tell my father I am okay. I am with mom, my mother. I am with my mother. I'm okay. That's how he comes across.
And when he says, these people, who is he referring to when he says these people?
Well, these people are, if you mean people who die from suicide, he says it's like, I can see them from here. I can understand their pain and their confusion. He says people who pass from suicide are confused, not evil. They're confused and they're lost. And he says, I have, great empathy. My heart, I wish I could do something for them. He says, but what the people I can do for are the people who are being set up as victims. Those are the people, he says, I don't want to see this happen to anybody else. He says, this was wrong. It happened to me. It shouldn't happen to other people.
Mark, do you get any sense of when there will be justice in this matter? Like, will it be anytime soon?
Yes, my
Will
sense
it be
is that
delayed? Like, what's the
I
process?
think within 2 months, you're going to see a lot happening or sooner. I feel like that people are chasing down the bad. They can't burn the evidence fast enough. I feel like that there is going to be one other person that knows too much connected to this, and that person is going down because they're perceived as the person that can incriminate and put other people in jail or prison. That person is at risk. So that's going to heat things up. It's just, I'm feeling like by September, you're going to know an awful lot. Early September, maybe a month. This is not done unfolding. There is going to be another, it's almost like you're seeing a slow motion chase right now. There are people trying to fight and cover things up, and it's happening now. Now. While you and I sit here, people are covering things up. They're planning on who else to kill. They're trying to see who will share information they could put. There are definitely some men saying, I'm not going to jail, and I'm going to take care of that person before something happens to me. That is what's happening now.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else, Mark, or should we wind
I'm
up
kind of,
the
I
session?
feel like he's just saying, he says, and this guy, he's got a wonderful smile. He says, just try to be loving to each other. And he says, but be careful who you trust. Be careful who you trust. And it says, be loving, but be careful who you trust.
Mark, I have one question. You said that there is a possibility, what uh, you could channel with Sushant, that there was something injected in his underarm, like a drug or something, to
Yeah.
disable him. So was this only like a one-time thing? If you're able to like get that,
Oh
or
no.
was it
Oh
something
no. He says that
injected?
I think that he had used drugs he says sparingly, occasionally, not frequently. Says I was not a drug addict. Says I was not a drug addict. But I had used it once before, maybe twice. Says I didn't really like it. I'm not doing this.
Was it
He says I
someone
was not a
else?
drug addict. He's
Was
saying I
it
was not.
was it someone else like who was injecting this? Because that's what you said, like at the time before he died, something was injected in his body. So
Yes.
do you think it was somebody else who was also in the past injecting this, or that was not possible?
I think it was someone else previously, but this time the policeman did it to perhaps make him less capable of fighting back. It's almost like gave him a little too much. And then the whole thing is that they didn't want to get into a brawl, a fight with him, because he was not a weak guy, and they wanted this to be quiet. This is why it feels like a calculated murder. It's like if they didn't use a stun gun, or they may have used a stun gun, they injected him to kind of make him not able to fight. They killed him and then they hung him. It's very brutal in that it was very calculated. One step after another will stop. I feel like that he fought back a little bit. You might find odd bruising, like I'm feeling like where my knees are, or my elbows, where I was trying to fight, but I wasn't. They took away his capability to fight very well. They incapacitated him, so that it's like trying to fight with a drunk guy or a weak guy or someone who's really high. They're not going to be able to put up a real fight.
And
Go ahead.
right, Mark. Is there a possibility that this, like, would you know, would you have any information if this happened in the morning, or if it happened, in the middle of the night? What was the time, the real time of when he passed over?
It feels like that they came by like at 8 p.m. in the evening. It feels like evening. I don't know if we know what happened, but it feels like it was evening. And I'm feeling like they wanted it to be dark, covered up. You know what, too? What's strange is that I almost think that he sat with these people and didn't realize what they were going to do. So I think that this policeman either was able to convince him to stay there with him for a little while. He went to his house, they talked for a little bit, and then they almost got him to a place where he thought everything was fine, and then they turned on him. I do think that this was someone he knew, or he thought he knew.
Okay.
So it's like they everything was about putting him at ease, to fool him. He says, he keeps coming back to, I was fooled, I was tricked. I was set up. And he says, this is like American movie genre, but it feels like a hit. It was a purposeful action that was calculated very coldly. They knew what they wanted to do. And it's strange about under the arm. It's like you wouldn't think to look there particularly. That it's kind of a place where you could hide an injection. Yeah.
Right, Mark. Thank you so much, Mark,
Thank you.
for sharing these details and for giving all this information. And I'm sure that people would gain a lot of information about their beloved star from this conversation, and everybody's going to really be very, very grateful to you. I am very grateful to you, Mark. Thank you so much for channeling with Sushant and with the guides and sharing. Thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.